on.
So today, I think what we're really going to focus in on is how to stay motivated when progress slows down, which is something that we both experienced and kind of have overcome and wanted to share what worked for us. So you want to start just maybe just a little background of where you were, when you plateaued, and then where you are now. Just quick synopsis.
Okay, so we started Lift March 2023. I weighed about 207, 208 pounds, around there, somewhere. Maybe I'll give a range, 205 to 215, somewhere in that range. About a year in, I got down to 180, somewhere around there. And I stayed there for probably 6 to 8 months, I would say. I want to almost say on accident, like it wasn't, like no, it wasn't on accident. I got complacent, I got lazy. But now it is February of 2025, and I am down to 162, and feeling as good as I ever have.
Great. Yeah, for me, we started lifting together around the same time. I came home from college, graduated college, and I was about 172 pounds. Not lifting prior, really, maybe once a week, very light. Saw those initial gains, got down to about 165 pounds by September. Was feeling pretty good about myself and thought that was a good, good output. But then that kind of just never changed for a couple more months, 6 to 8 months. And once we flipped the switch almost, I'm now looking at 148 pounds on February 22nd, 2025.
And I think it's kind of funny, coincidentally, we both kind of plateaued at the same time for about the same amount of time.
Yeah. For those who probably don't know, because this is only one of the first episodes of the podcast, we work out together every day. And this is the shit that we talk about every day.
Yep.
So we're just, trying to share our thoughts. So it makes sense on why we were kind of just living in the same bubble together, not really pushing each other, not pushing ourselves to get better. So can you talk about, let's start with from the biggest to the point of the plateau. How was the mindset? How were the thoughts, feelings, everything that went into that?
Okay, so I'll touch a little bit. I went to school I went to college for a semester. I came home, I was working out 3 days a week, eating whatever the hell I wanted to eat. And I wasn't, doing anything special in terms of weight loss, wasn't tracking, wasn't doing anything like that. So that was around my 205 to 215. And then we started going to the gym, and we were going at like 9 in the morning. Yep. Tired, feeling crappy. But then, I was like, okay, I'm going to start tracking my food. I'm going to start doing intermittent fasting. That was my thing, for a while. It had nothing to do with calories. I didn't track any of that. I just started intermittent fasting, which was great because of the size I was, because I was big.
You saw those initial gains,
right?
Or losses, I guess.
Losses, yes. Yeah, so initially, doing the fasting, I was losing weight regularly, consistently, but I had no number on how much protein, calories, any of that crap. So I ended up getting down to, 180, around that range with just the fasting. And
not to cut you off, but I want to say this. That's great. Losing 20 pounds is still very challenging.
Yes.
So you were still doing, some of the right things.
Right. Which I think I was doing some of the right things, but not to the full extent of what I could have been. But that was because I think I had a lofty goal.
Right.
I didn't know really what my goal was. I didn't set a goal of, I want to, like we said, we just talked a little bit more on chasing the scale, which was something I was kind of doing, was just as low as the number can get, just keep getting down. I didn't really care about, how much weight I was lifting, any of that crap. But I just had this goal in my head of lose as much as possible, get the number on the scale as low as possible. And then it got down to 180, and the fasting itself, like just by itself with not tracking, stopped, working. And I just sat there at 180 for 6 to 8 months.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, similarly to you. So I was at 170. I got down to 165, which is where kind of everything stopped for me pretty quickly, like in 3 weeks. And so you were doing some of those things. I wasn't, right? I was just showing up to lift, and then I'd go home and do nothing. I would try to, quote unquote, eat clean, and we can talk about why, what does eat clean mean, but maybe prioritize a little bit more like chicken, right? I was still watching the videos on this is what you need to do to be in the best shape of your life and to do to the six pack. Do this 3-minute ab routine. I used to love that shit. It's not real, right? And I was just kind of I lost 5 pounds. My strength went up initially, definitely got that little jump because I was never a really big fitness person before, outside of like organizational sports. So I was just kind of cool. And I'm like, well, 5 pounds, it worked. Like, I just got to be patient.
Mm-hmm.
But like, there was no progress being made.
Right.
At what point though did you? Because right, we say we sat in this for like 6 to 8 months. Like, what was your mindset maybe at like month 2 in it? Right, like where you really didn't realize you were in a plateau. Like, did you feel? For me, like I felt like, damn, what am I doing wrong? Like, what the
Confused.
hell is the problem? Why I lost 5 pounds so quick? Why am I not losing another 5 pounds? And it's been 3 months now.
Right. I think yeah, I was in a state of confusion, kind of just like, oh, why isn't this working anymore? And a little bit of is this fasting worth it? You know, because fasting, it's not easy. You know, your hunger, which is something I can get into later, but for me, I've come to the conclusion that hunger is a state of mind, which might sound like absolutely psychopathic, but like for me, that's kind of what I tell myself to keep going, because I still do the intermittent fasting, but that's just because it works, which we can talk about at a later date. But I was just like, well, it worked this far. Why is it not working anymore? But it's because I was being careless. I just lifted, ate, fasted. Okay, that was the norm. So that's just kind of.
And just to clarify, you just kept rolling in the cycle.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Your routine was practically the same every day.
Mm-hmm.
But nothing really divvied off the path.
Right, and I wasn't in a mindset of, you know, how can I be better today? It was more just like, oh shit, I lost 20 pounds. Great.
Yeah, right.
You know?
Right.
But that you know, and it stayed that way. The only thing I think we really changed at that point was getting to the gym earlier in the
A
morning.
little bit earlier. Well, that's because I, got a job, so I had to get there a little earlier,
Right.
just because. But we started getting there earlier. Thinking about it now, how many days a week did mostly my fault, just say I'm just not waking up today?
Yeah, I think. Well, still to this day, we text each other in the morning like, oh, you're going to the gym today. Sometimes
Trying to hold each other accountable.
Yep. Ever since, but that was something that, like, I would just text him in the morning and be like, hey, you going to the gym today? And he'd be like, nah, not this. Well, not today, but not this morning. And I'd be okay with it. Right back to bed.
Yeah, and I think we really got in that cycle of just like doing the bare minimum to what we thought was going to like work. Like I think we almost chased literally that bottom line.
Yeah,
of
like
what we thought would get us to our goal.
You're sitting here doing the things that have worked and trying to, you know, have a mindset that it's going to yield results higher than it was. But if you're not doing anything to change, you know, like what you're doing on a regular basis, when it's not working, why are you going to yield more results, or why are you going to get more, you know, out of it?
Yeah, I think we were just really sitting in that mellow, you know, definitely, definitely content. We brought that line up, like we got closer to our like conceived goals, but like we just kind of sat, like we were almost like just treading water and just cool with it.
I think that kind of goes into that thing that we talk about raising the ceiling and not the floor.
Yep.
Like I think we had raised our ceiling, raised our floor, and then didn't do anything.
Yeah.
You know.
Yep.
You kind of fill the bottle to the top, and then there's no more to.
Yeah, and I think we were stuck there. I mean, 6 to 8 months is a long time, but I think that's where a lot of people get like really complacent and even quit.
Yes.
It's not just their fitness journey. We're looking at it through the lens of fitness, but like whatever somebody's goal is, I feel like this is where they fall off the wagon. Once those initial like gains or weight losses, I guess in this sense, stop, and like when you have to recalibrate your approach, I think that's when it ends.
And I think that's something that like kind of sucks, but you have to know is that you're going to get to a point where that stuff just stops working because you've made such like your starting point to where you got. The change you made at your starting point was so drastic that like now you've gotten to this point, like I'll say I went from 205 down to 180, and that change in that time was so drastic, but I only lost that 20 pounds because my body got used to that huge drastic change that I made.
Right. Yeah, I think just you're gonna have different goals. Like you need to start thinking your goals in like shorter windows, right? Like your goals for that first 20 pounds, for me, that first 5 pounds, have to be different than from that's your new starting point.
Right.
To where the next line where you recalibrate
You
us?
can kind of look at it like as a halftime. In halftime, you played basketball, I played football. My coach would always say, even if we were up 60 points, even if we were up, because we, at the time we were good,
Yeah.
but they would drill and drill and drill on the fact that going into the next half, it's 0-0.
It's a whole nother game.
It's a whole nother
It's a
game.
new game.
And I think that's actually a great analogy that I am just realizing because I'm spewing into the, just putting it out on the table. But, don't look at your plateau as the finish line, but look at it as halftime of 4 quarters. Or,
Yep.
maybe it's not 4 quarters, maybe it's more, but it's just halftime right now. And now you have to reset and start from the beginning. But you're not from the beginning because you've made all that progress in between.
Just your new beginning.
Yep.
So one thing I want to talk about, because I kind of really been trying to psychoanalyze my own mental health and get that aspect back on track. Can you kind of talk about how you felt about yourself? Because you talked about how you were proud that you lost 20 pounds.
Yeah.
But knowing you and seeing what these last 6 months have been, how did you feel about yourself? If you want to get not super vulnerable, but like just enough where you kind of like. For me, I felt, I made some progress, but like most of the time, I'd be like, you're just not good. Like it's just not good.
Well, I think it was like, yeah, I made progress. I was happy with where I was, but I was also a little bit like, I got a little bit sad about why it stopped. But I was also letting being complacent and being content with where I was. I was allowing that to overwhelm me, and I wouldn't even say overwhelm because I had no motive to get better at that point. But for me, it was just like, yeah, I was proud of where I was, but I didn't realize that there was more. I kind of didn't really. I was like, holy crap! I lost 20 pounds. That's a ton of weight. Everybody's telling me that I look good, which was something that I look back at now, and I'm not angry at anybody, but like I wish people kind of told me more, like get in check, like you kind of like you're big.
Yeah. For me, it's like I was happy with I'm going to the gym every day. I didn't used to do that, right? I'm like I got to the end of this half. But I would still wake up every day like expecting to see those like changes that I saw like quite quickly in the beginning, and I just wouldn't see them anymore.
Right.
And like I just again that's kind of where I got to the point where like I don't feel like going to the gym in the morning because like I'm not seeing any difference. What's the point?
Yep.
And it really made me have a bad self like image of myself, even though I did make progress and I was getting better in terms of like getting to the gym every day. I just was like the progress has stopped. This is my max potential. I'm cooked.
It's almost like you lose you just run out of hope.
Yeah,
Like you feel hopeless. Like for me, I kind of felt hopeless. Like, wow, will I ever be able to get down to like, not having muffin tops or like, some of those goals that I was like trying to get rid of stuff on my body, and I was like, well, no, I'm not going to be able to do it.
Yeah.
But I was, like I could and I did, but at that time I was too lazy to actually like. Or not necessarily educated enough to make that that shift on. There's still more to go.
So why do you think that this was a plateau for us instead of it being the end of the journey? Because again, this is I think where a lot of people fall off the wagon, and understandably so. Because you can be you can really feel like shit.
I think I don't want to speak for you, but I think at least I was. Maybe both of us were ready to kind of like we were just kind of like doing it, going with the motion, kind of almost ready to be done. Like holy crap, we put in all this work we've got here. Now it's just like do it day in and day out, just like this is normal, but not change anything.
Yeah.
So I mean, but to.
That was nice. I hope the mic caught that.
So do I.
Very ASMR correct.
Can we redo that question? I just lost it because I cracked it.
No, you just got to keep going. That's on you.
What was the question? What did you ask me?
Why did you push through your plateau? What was the mental change where you're like today is going to be different than the past 6 months?
What was that shift? Well, okay, so that shift kind of happened. It was somewhere between August and like October, November of 2024, where I was like, well, maybe I'm not doing everything. Like I thought I was doing everything by fasting.
Not to cut you off, you told yourself that you were doing everything.
I told myself I was doing everything, but then I'm like, well, am I doing everything that I need to do, or am I doing everything that I want to do?
Exactly.
And I was only doing what I wanted to do, and I had an epiphany where I'm like, okay, I used to track at one point. Why not start tracking again? So I started tracking my calories, and I go from, all of a sudden I'm 185, and then 2 months later I'm down to 172, and it's just like, okay, well, tracking was the issue. That was the reset at halftime.
Yes. Yeah. My timeline is a little different. I sat a little bit longer in this complacency period, but everything really started to change for me when I just started being honest with myself.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and that's
Yeah.
what you alluded to. Is like he'd tell me, bro, I'm actually seeing big changes. Right, I dropped all these pounds. Start tracking your food. I'd be like, yeah, bro, I'll track. I ain't track. Next day I go by, bro, track your food. I'm really seeing progress, and I'm sitting in the cycle like, I don't need to track. Like I know how much I'm eating, and I'm just lying to myself. And one day I'm like, I don't know if like an epiphany happened or I got hit on the head while I was sleeping, but I just realized it's not time to lie to myself anymore. If I want these things, right? Like I could have stayed where I was and it would have been cool,
Yep.
but like I wouldn't have felt good about myself. I think, like genuinely, like inside myself would have felt like there was more on the table. I
Right.
think that was the big change for me. It was just
Right.
being honest.
Yeah. So I know I use an app, and we both have the same food scale, but I use the app that goes with the food scale. And for a while, you didn't use that app. What worked for you in that time where you weren't using the app as much, or you still might not be using the app, but I know that
So the way for if we're going to talk about tracking a little bit, the way I do it is I just try to eat the same things every day so it makes less work for me. But I use Fat Secret. Shout out Fat Secret. Please sponsor me. They have calories, fats, carbs, protein, all your nutrition needs laid out for like every measurement of food you can think. So for me, it's like I'll just have 8 ounces of cooked chicken breast, right? And I have to be diligent and write that down.
Right, which is what I was getting at was, instead of putting it all into your phone, you would weigh it and then you wrote down on paper.
Oh yeah.
On paper.
Oh
which-
yeah. See, I don't even do that anymore because again, I've moved that goalpost where now I don't have to. But for me, one thing that's worked for me academically, whatever, personally, writing stuff down like actually physically,
Yep.
like will get you better. Like
Right.
it'll help you remember things. Like there's so many payoffs to writing stuff down, like on a piece of paper, in the digital era. Like you do it, try it. Because for me, it really did work. Like
think-
I wouldn't lie to myself anymore.
Right, because it's there, it's in front of you, it's physical. It's not just this piece of it's
I
not
think
just a
it's so,
device.
when you write it down, it's like you kind of almost have to because like for me, I'm carrying this pad of paper to work.
Yeah.
Where like my phone, I can just be like, I just don't feel like opening that app, so I just want to do it.
Right, and I think that's actually something that helped me with my goals for at work. For a few weeks, I was just writing down what I wanted to get done. My goals weren't as refined as they should have been, but I would write down these goals and I would accomplish a ton more than I was before.
Yeah.
But and then I was able to switch that to my notes app because I'm like, okay, I got routined with it, so now I'm doing it. I know what's going to happen, so I still use my notes now as a checklist, and it's all right there. So if I'm on the go, but like I have to make a phone call that I wrote down earlier, click, checked off.
Right. So what, in addition to tracking, do you think has helped you to reach your goalpost more, push you further towards your current goalpost?
In addition to tracking, has definitely not only been tracking calories, but tracking steps. Tracking steps I kind of thought it was a little bit cliche at first when you're like looking at your watch and you're like, yep, I'm at 6,000 steps today. What about you? And I was like, okay.
Do you want a step check right now?
Yeah.
What are you at?
Not as much as you, but I'm at 11,263.
Yeah, I've had a big day, but I'm at 16,711 steps.
Right.
today.
So, and I think once I actually started paying attention to that, that was something that also kick-started, a little bit more weight loss. Because as I've gotten lower, it's been harder to actually like get the weight off.
100%.
So, in addition to tracking calories, tracking steps, and increasing the amount of movement per day has definitely helped me a lot.
Right. I think, like I was, according to my phone, I was getting about 7,000 steps on average last year, and now I'm well over like 11,000 a day.
I think I'm
Right.
about the same. Yeah.
Tracking your steps, if you're trying to lose weight and you're like finding yourself at a plateau, try hitting like, if you're just starting out, try like 8,000 steps. Where we're at 10,000, and I've talked to him already because we are so committed to our goals right now. We're like crushing it and seeing, we're trying to say 10, but I think most days we're shooting well over 10.
I think 10 is just kind of that bare minimum, but
Yeah.
like at this point where we just talked about like bare minimum on goals,
Yeah.
we've got to the point where it's like you have the bare minimum, but now we're actively trying to get
Push
past
past
that.
it.
Yep.
Push past it, and it's like steps are the most free, easy, like weight loss. I don't want to use the word hack, But like if you are struggling, like try just adding more steps to your
Yes.
routine. It makes a world of a difference without like any more effort than you think.
You don't have to pay money.
Nope.
You don't have to, you can still do the thing. Like, okay, well, if you really wanted to pay money, you can get a walking pad. We both have done that. But a walking pad, if you think about it, in terms of a gym membership, let's say $20 a month for a gym membership, and it's $120 for a walking pad. In 6 months, that walking pad is paid off,
Yeah.
like as a gym membership would. And guess what you can do while you're on a walking pad? You can consume. You can watch TV. You
Yeah.
can scroll TikTok, but you're actively getting, your steps in while you're.
Something I've added to my current routine is I've tried to take up writing more
Mm-hmm.
and blogging. And I've tried to tell you, you should do it. It's
Yes,
fun.
yep.
It just really helps you get your mind out on paper. But I try to walk while I write. So I'm killing two birds with one stone.
Right. Yeah.
And it really kind of just adds up.
I think, and that's kind of like, I started to do a little bit of the TikToking here and there, and I was just like, which actually I can thank you for, because it was Christmas time. It was December 13th, and you're like, do 12 days of Christmas and I'm like, you know what? Why not? Why am I not doing this? I should just, on my personal Instagram page, and I started posting, and I'm like, we go to the gym every day. I've made a lot of progress. Why not just post it? Even if I don't look exactly what I want to look like now, like, throw it on there.
Yeah. And I think all these things really do go into overcoming that plateau, because at some point you're going to have to change your mindset if you want to see new results.
Yep.
Like the mindset that got you from A to B is not going to get you from B to C.
Right, and it's almost like once you get to B, it's again halftime. Switch over. Now you're at B to C.
Yep.
But I also think, like, not only that, for me, for TikTok and stuff like that, how does that have anything to do with the plateau? Well, I can go scroll back to my first video I've posted. There's progress since then.
Right.
It's keeping, you can see it as it goes on. So you're continuing to push yourself forward into making more progress instead of just staying.
Yeah,
Same.
going off that, I think one thing that really did help me, in addition to all these things, push past my plateau was like sitting with myself a little bit more and like being like, okay, you have made progress. Like, there's things that you can do that you've seen work already.
Right.
How did you figure out what you needed to do to get there? So now let's start almost like you're at the starting line again and think, again, it's halftime of the game. What do I need to do in this half? It's probably not going to be the same in the first half, right?
Right.
Adjustments need to happen to get to this new goal. And I think once, we've said refining our goals, new mindset has really, kind of been the change.
Yeah.
Talk about a little where you're at now.
In terms of.
Well, start with fitness, or where you are at with your weight and your strength, and kind of where you want to go next.
Well, I'm at the number on the scale. Okay, so I still weigh myself every morning.
Same.
Just
I think it's good too. If that is one of your goals, I think it's positive.
I think the weighing on the scale every morning for me, what it does for me is I'll set a number of up. Like, I'll set a number up to. If I go up to that number, then I'm doing something wrong. Like, I'm consuming too much protein or too much calories.
But that's not like a 0.4 pounds. That's like
no.
Like
that would, okay, so like if 162, if I get up to like 165 or 167, then I'm like, all right, I need to reevaluate. What am I doing here? So I think my goal now is just really I want to get below 160, because I know that I still got 2 pounds here left to go. My main goal, 6-pack. But I think in terms of like what could I do better now is I think I might be consuming a little bit too much protein. I think the calorie count is fine. I'm still between 1,500 to 1,800 every single day. But I think I've upped the amount of chicken breast and lowered the amount of like other foods like berries or stuff like that.
Yeah,
so
right,
I'm
right.
kind of.
Your protein intake has just become an overwhelming majority.
Yep.
And you're not getting enough of the other stuff.
Right. It almost actually leaves me at like, I'm at like 1,200 calories and I'll be at my protein goal. And I'm like, okay, well, like if I eat anything else,
right,
it's just going to put me over my protein goal.
Yeah.
So how about you though?
So for me, I was 165 in November. I was the scale that I use for my body weight tells me my body fat percentage. Even if it's not perfectly accurate, it's fallen in line to where I think, right? So back in October, right, I think it was, where we were like in our plateau, I was 22% body fat.
Yep.
Which, again, I thought at the time, I was like, cool, like, but I knew I was just upset with myself. I'm currently sitting at 13.2
That's
as of today,
huge.
so that's 10% in body fat, and that's been 18 pounds down.
Well, you got to think 10% at 23 though. That's almost half.
Yeah, yeah,
That's almost half
it's
your-
been crazy, and like I can see it. So once you visualize something, like your motivation just pushes you farther. Even the days that you're not feeling like giddy
Yep.
to work out or to do, eat what you need to eat. But I'm starting to see myself. I know you're kind of like chill on this, but like I'm starting to see like that line has been drawn because again from 23% to 13% and the 18 pounds down, it was like, whew. I mean, I was texting you every morning like, yo, I'm new low weight, new low weight,
Yep.
hashtag new low, every like morning or two, and now that's not really happening. I'm kind of chilling, so I'm at a point again where I think like I need to, even if not that I'm sitting in a plateau necessarily, but when the goal gets harder, right? The closer you get, the harder it's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
So I just think I need to refine my goals just a little bit more, and I think it's good, and it's not even like in a psychotic way, but just to like make sure I'm doing what I need to do.
Right. Just keeping yourself accountable.
Yes.
I mean, and I think to kind of circle back to the whole like, how do you overcome a plateau? It's just holding yourself. I think is holding yourself accountable. For me personally, I lost accountability for the thing, and a little bit of knowledge. I think a little bit of knowledge goes into it, but that's kind of the whole reason we're here doing this
100%.
is to try and spread the things that have worked for us.
Right. I hope in like a month or 2 months, right? I don't want to set a timeline on it because I think timelines are bad, but the farther we take this along, I hope that I'm at like 9% body fat in a couple months because I refined my goals today.
Yes, which I think this also is helping us, which, like is keeping us ourselves accountable right now. Like today, we're both probably going to, go home after this and think, how can we refine our goals now to make ourselves even better than the day before?
And even thinking about it just in terms of like recording ourselves. Like this is our first day ever recording a podcast. And that like kind of sounds crazy to even say out loud, but like this is just the first day, and that can be exciting, right? Like
Right.
we can refine our goals from here, right? You should always think about refining your goals because if you find yourself in a plateau, instead of quitting, just simply like thinking positively, one, about the progress you made, and two, what could I change? And they don't have to be big changes, right? Just those we just talked about doing small little changes, right?
Yeah.
Do those and see.
Your thing is small changes, big results. Yeah.
Yeah. So like just make some progress.
Yeah, and I think even like in terms of not only in the gym or physically, the goal setting in the plateau has allowed us to realize like, holy shit, you can do so much. Hence the reason we're here. Yeah. Like we're adding this to the routine of like we're maybe not going to routine this yet just because it's new. We're still kind of getting in the groove of things, but we've realized how much more we can do outside of not only the gym but work and this and that.
And not just doing this in hopes to, I feel like a lot of people get rich quick on social media, get super famous. Dog, I'm just talking to you like we talk every morning, and this is just for fun.
Camera,
and like, again, just some thoughts that we have on things. Like, these are things that we actually did.
Yep. I mean, I got a comment the other day on one of my TikToks and it said, gloating must be nice. Okay. And my response to that was, like, how am I gloating? I told you about that. How am I gloating? I'm just trying to share my progress. And after that, I said, if I help one person, even get out of bed the next morning or something, just anything like that at all. If I help one person, my goal, like not even goal, but like that's the point.
Yeah. When it's not just with this, it's with anything, right? Once you start figuring stuff out, you like to share it. Mm-hmm. And this is just a means that we can share it.
Right. Like this, just like what worked for us. If you want to try it, that'd be great.
It's fun, man. You. Like I'm having a lot of fun in life right now, just trying new things, and this is one of those. But yeah, just refining the goals, moving your goalposts appropriately, right? Mm-hmm. You don't want to set a goalpost that you can't reach within the time frame that you're giving yourself. But overcoming that plateau, it can be a real struggle, but it's possible as long as you understand what your mindset needs to be going into it. Yep. You can't go with the same mindset that got you from A to B to get to B to C.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you got to want it. You really have to want it. I think that's the biggest thing for me was when I was at 180 was like, how bad do I really want it? Do I want to sit here and shove my face full of crappy food? Yes, but I want to look better even more.
Yeah, you had to be honest with yourself on what you really wanted. Because even if you mentally tell yourself, oh, I really want this, but your actions speak otherwise, then you don't really want it.
It's just like how bad do you really...
How bad do you actually want it?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's a great point to leave off on.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. All right. Well, that's episode 2 of this unnamed podcast.
Yeah, maybe that'll be what it's called, the unnamed podcast.
Maybe. We'll figure it out.
I don't know. But maybe we'll get into, some other points that,
Yeah, we're going to talk about a bunch of things. I mean, just to rifle off some. I mean, we're generally mindset, fitness, like overall wellness for just two guys figuring it out.
Yeah. And, if you want to join us in the journey of figuring it out, that's great.
Yeah, cool.
All right. Peace.